Next, Mary Backstage, Noble Wife, the story of America's favorite family of the footlights and their fight for security and happiness against the concrete heart of Broadway. Our story begins today, a few minutes after yesterday's episode. Mary, Harry, Pop, Calvin, and Greg are in the grand saloon of the luxury liner Poseidon, enjoying the entertainment provided by the captain on their first night out.
Well, looks like we're going to have that storyteller.
Yes, I think they fixed the microphone.
He had some trouble with that mic.
The captain ordered the canvas prepared. That night, the sailors spread it on deck.
Sea story.
The child was placed in it. Then it was folded over a body and sewn up ready for burial, and then sewn up ready for burial the next day.
Ready for burial the next day.
Yeah, that's exciting.
But even as they did so, everybody heard the. Sorry,
He's a little
in
nervous.
1683, she married King Louis XIV.
Should try to pay attention.
And for the remaining 32 years of his reign, it was Francoise who guided.
I can't make any sense out of it. How can I pay attention?
I like it.
1683, she married King Louis XIV.
Good story.
And for the remaining 32 years of his reign, it was Francoise who guided the destiny of France.
Greg, maybe you could work this fellow into the safari feature, the special
In
TV.
1883, she married King Louis XIV, and for the remaining 32 years, in 1817, he fell in love with that he had heard Emily. He had complained either he marry his daughter, or he would challenge him to a duel. Opponent had changed of heart too.
Yes.
I hope he's going to ask questions
And
afterwards.
2 shots rang out. Adolf fired high, but even...
Well, it's a very good story. I like it.
And 2 shots rang out.
Sure they did. That's right. It's wonderful.
Yes, it's quite interesting.
For the rest of his life, nothing could alter his feeling of guilt.
No. Yeah.
For the rest of his life, nothing could alter his feeling of guilt.
Pass me that bottle.
But his curse was the cause of the tragedy.
There it is. It's close
When
to
he
me.
died, he left all his money,
Thanks,
$5 million, to be divided equally among the survivors of that terrible tragedy.
Wow, $5 million.
Gosh.
For the rest of his life,
That's
thought of modern atomic submarines and then of the Roman Empire and how they conquered
Is
Carthage,
this another story?
which we now know as Tunis.
Same story.
In the year 260 B.C., Cyrus Deulius was consul of Rome.
I do find it hard to follow, though.
In the year, he could hardly ask for his bodyguard before they had a chance to allot him another flute player and a torchbearer for being the conqueror of the Carthaginians. He got it. Oh. That rose opposite his modest
Could you give me
cabin.
another
That
drink?
rose opposite his modest...
Same thing all around
He
here.
told them that
back to the
someday,
double.
right where they were standing, he told them that someday, right there where we... Soon afterward, John Hendricks died.
Oh.
Mary, you're drifting off to sleep, I think, aren't you?
Oh, yes. His voice has a quality of a late TV show droning in the background, almost like a sleeping pill.
Yeah, a little bit like the Komodo Dragon show.
Oh, the story's over?
Yep, I guess it is. He's leaving the stage, nodding to the generous applause of the people around here.
I tell you, maybe it's different, but somehow or other, entertainment isn't as enjoyable as it used to be.
No, I think I'd agree with you, Calvin. Mr. Marlowe, did you get anything out of the story, or...?
I've been sitting here taking notes. Now, either I have bad hearing or this fellow's crazy.
You heard it the same way we did, Greg. The more you think about it, the more difficult it is to piece those pieces of the story together.
It was his stage demeanor, the way he kept glaring out at the audience, like he'd forgot, and he kept referring to his notes in his hand. And I felt very uncomfortable. I don't think it was an accomplished or very professional act.
Well, maybe they'll have some different entertainment tomorrow night. Maybe the captain will announce what it's going to be in the cliffhanger.
Here come our drinks.
And so, the entertainment over, our friends prepare to enjoy the remainder of the evening of their first night out aboard the Poseidon. Tomorrow you want to be here when we'll hear Calvin say,
"They have cartoons of the Jetsons."
That's tomorrow in the next exciting episode of Mary Backstage Noble Wife. Word Carr speaking. There's a gentleman here with me who is one of the entrants in our Bob and Ray National Spelling Bee contest that we hold every year. Sir, would you identify yourself? Would you care to?
Malcolm Norris.
Mr. Norris, where do you hail from?
East Northport.
That's on Long Island?
Yes, sir.
I think I was out there years and years ago. Beautiful.
Oh, is that so? Well, it's probably changed. You probably wouldn't recognize it now.
Well, that's
Been
true.
A few changes over the years,
Changes
like most communities.
Everywhere, that's right.
You'd be surprised how things have changed in Northport compared to what it was, say, at the turn of the century.
Uh-huh. Have you ever taken part in our past spelling bees before?
No, I never have. I've just started participating in spelling bees in the last year and a half or so.
Uh-huh. What got you interested
I got
in
a dictionary, and I got to become very good at spelling words, and I do them phonetically, you know. I sound them out in my head, and I've been pretty lucky so far.
Okay.
Very
well,
interesting.
let's see how good you are. This won't count, of course, in the
Sure.
thing. Let me reach into the barrel here and pick
Why
out
not?
a word at random, and let's see how you would spell. Oh, this is an easy one. Airplane.
Airplane, sure. A-E-R-O-P-L-A-N-E. Airplane.
Well, we're more used to seeing it spelled A-I-R. A-I-R.
I don't care how you're used to it.
I guess that's,
it's spelled A-E-R-O-P-L-A-N-E. Airplane.
Well, is that preferred?
I prefer it that way.
No, but I mean, does the dictionary prefer it that way?
I think it does. Sure, you look it up.
All right,
Listen,
I'll do that.
I'm a spelling champion. I wouldn't be here making a fool of myself. If I didn't know how to spell airplane, you don't think I'd show up for a spelling
All right, well, I've
contest,
got 15 minutes while the news is on. I'll go look it up, and you stay right here. And again, it's time for Bridget Hillary and the News, a dramatic but often interesting story of a girl radio reporter who dares to tell the truth in her hard-hitting weekly broadcasts. As our scene opens today, Bridget is in the rehearsal room of the Amalgamated Broadcasting System. Her longtime friend and admirer, wealthy stockbroker Carlton Pitlack, is just entering.
Why, Carlton, how delightful to see you again. Did you drop by to catch my hard-hitting weekly broadcast?
No, I'm now working nights here at Amalgamated Broadcasting, Bridget. So if you'll hand me that wastebasket, I'll empty it for you.
2 minutes to airtime, Miss Hillary.
I'd polish your ashtrays, too, but I seem to have left my rag in the janitor's dressing room.
This seems like a rather unusual way for a wealthy stockbroker to spend his evenings, Carlton. Are you having some sort of problem you'd like to tell me about?
Well, I don't think I should have any need to tell you, Bridget. It was all those charges you made against me on the air that virtually ruined my career on Wall Street.
1 minute to airtime, Miss Hillary.
Of course, it's obvious that you were wrong in accusing me of rigging the price of Acme Iron and Cosmetics. I lost more of my own money than anybody else's on that stock. But the suspicions you raised have, well, they virtually ruined my career on Wall Street.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that you were out-slickered by a bigger crook than yourself, Carlton. But I only charged you with trying to fleece the public. I didn't say you succeeded.
But the stock was selling at 93 when I recommended it, 94 when you started making those wild charges. Now it's down to 12.
You're on the air, Miss Hillary.
So, actually, it was your broadcast that caused the panic to sell. And I'm sorry to say that you virtually ruined me on Wall Street.
Well, I imagine a lot of widows and orphans got hurt by your little swindle much worse than you did. I must remember to mention your selfish attitude about the whole thing on my broadcast tonight.
I wish you wouldn't do that, Bridget. Acme Iron and Cosmetics is still a strong company, and the stock will eventually go back up if you'll only stop making things worse.
Your program's off the air now, Miss Hillary. When you didn't show up in the studio, they just ran a tape of last week's news review to fill the time.
I know you're in a hurry to get to the studio for your broadcast, but, well, I just had to make one last appeal for you to check your facts before you say any more terrible things about me. I'm virtually ruined on Wall Street, you know.
Well, I'm truly sorry to see you down and out this way, Carlton, but our American free enterprise system only works when robber barons like yourself play by the rules. And as a news reporter, my first duty is to the millions of little people who still believe that the American way is the best way.
And so Bridget's strong journalistic principles threaten to destroy her friendship with a very old and dear former millionaire. But can she continue to attack the very foundations of big business without fear of reprisal? Be sure to join us next time when we'll hear the airline baggage handler say,
Now, that big trunk full of money goes on the flight with the stockbroker who's headed for Brazil.
That's in the next exciting episode of Bridget Hillary and the News. And now, Mushies, the great news cereal that gets soggy even without milk or cream, brings you another exciting story of adventure starring Tippy the Wonder Dog. As we look in on the isolated cabin of Grandpa Witherspoon this week, we find most of the surrounding valley asleep under a dark, moonless sky. But inside, Gramps is tossing fitfully on his cot as little Jasper stands by the front window, staring out into the inky blackness. Suddenly, the boy turns and speaks.
It sure is dark outside tonight, Gramps.
Unsarn it all, I know it's dark outside. It's dark in here, too. Sure wish I'd never sent that fool dog of yours to pick up the new part I need to fix the electric generator.
Gee, Gramps, you shouldn't get upset with Tippy. That new generator part was supposed to come in on the evening train, and I just heard the train whistle a few minutes ago.
Unsarn it all, that was tonight's evening train you heard. I sent that fool dog to meet the evening train that went through last Thursday. He's never going to come back at all.
Oh, sure he is, Gramps. Tippy never lets us down in a time of great crisis. He's the bravest, smartest dog in the whole wide world.
Well, consarn it all, where is he then?
Hark! I think I see his shadowy figure loping up the trail now. Here, Tippy, Tippy, come on, boy. Here, Tippy, Tippy.
Well, consarn it all, give me that new generator part so we can get some lights on in here.
I'm sorry, Gramps, but that wasn't Tippy I saw. It was just the Shutterman's Pekingese headed home from the library with a manual on how to repair Studebaker trucks.
That Pekingese only got legs 5 inches long, but he can be sent out on errands I'd never trust to that fool Tippy.
Oh, don't lose faith, Gramps. The freight agent at the depot probably had a lot of papers for Tippy to sign before he could get the package. But it'll be okay. Tippy's the brightest, smartest... Wait, I see him coming now. Here, Tippy, come on, boy. Tippy, come on, fella. Hey.
Well, consarn it all, where's the fool dog?
It wasn't Tippy after all, Gramps. It was that St. Bernard that hangs around the ski lodge. He was headed back up that way, dragging a lost skier behind him.
Every dog in the neighborhood can be sent out on a simple chore except that fool mutt of yours.
Oh, don't say that, Gramps. I know you're upset because it's been dark in here for almost a week, but Tippy's the finest, smartest dog in the whole wide world. And I just know... Wait, I see him coming for sure now. Come on, Tippy. That's a good boy. That's a good dog.
Well, consarn it all, it's high time he got here. Now give me that new part for the generator.
I guess Tippy didn't have room in his mouth to carry it, Gramps, see? He's fetched that big stick I was throwing for him out in the yard.
Consarn it all, I swear I'm going to wring that fool dog's neck.
No, wait, Gramps. Don't you understand? Tippy's trying to help us gather firewood so we can light the cabin without fixing the generator. We never thought of that, but he did. Gosh, Tippy sure is the finest, smartest dog in the whole wide world.
Today's thrilling dramatic action has all been brought to you by Mushies, the great news cereal that gets soggy even without milk or cream. Join us again soon for another amazing adventure of Tippy the Wonder Dog.
Am I going to get to play the organ today?
Probably you could, sure.
I'd like to. I don't want to bother you with all the requests I get to play the organ because I don't want to force myself.
No.
On the program. I know it's your show.
Always gets good reaction whenever you play.
I do have a lot of people write me and say they love to hear the old WOR pipe organ as I play it.
Right.
With my famous George Ryder Edwards.
Well, I'm sure we'll one is in the control right now.
I might tickle the old keyboard for you a little bit later.
All right, very good.
Wet afternoon in July.
Real crowd pleaser, Webley Webster, ladies and gentlemen.
League is for the birds. Have I told you that?
Yeah, they've kind of struck out a lot of times, haven't they?
No, I hate to use that kind of language, but what is this?
I don't know.
They can't beat the National League for losing.
No, they look kind of bad, I'm afraid.
Oh, boy. I can't believe it sometimes. And then in the World Series, Oakland always wins.
Yeah. Well, how you going to figure it? I don't know.
I don't know. I'm going to go over the organ and...
All right, a real crowd, please, at Webley Webster, ladies and gentlemen. Webley Webster. And now, the Rotman Corporation, maker of fine buggy whips for more than 9 centuries, brings you The Orderlies, a dramatic behind-the-scenes glimpse of life in a big city hospital.
Orderly Wine Coop, report at once to Chief Orderly Schnellwell. Report to Chief Orderly Schnellwell.
You requested my presence, Chief Orderly Schnellwell.
Wine Coop, the term request implies that you had some choice about obeying. Perhaps you've forgotten how our system operates here in a big city hospital.
Oh, no, Your Excellency. I never forget for a minute that your position as Chief Orderly put you right up there with Ivan the Terrible, not to mention our beloved head surgeon.
All right, Wine Coop, you can stop rubbing your forehead on the toes of my sneakers. Just remembering your place will be sufficient.
Well, I figure it can't hurt to overdo it a little, sir. I've already heard about Orderly Tidman's demotion to the kitchen detail, and I sure wouldn't want anything as terrible as that to happen to me.
Do you have some objection to preparing hospital food, Wine Coop?
Well, I'd never go so far as to make a blanket indictment of all our food, Your Eminence, but I heard how Orderly Tidman was forced to spend the whole afternoon stirring a vat of mashed-up cauliflower. They say he was begging to be put out of his misery by dinner time.
Yes, they do seem to have a knack for separating the men from the boys down there in the kitchen. And I can't help being amused over what may happen to you as a result of this report that's just reached my desk.
You mean one of your informers has faked on me? Well, that's impossible, sir. I haven't stepped out of line at all.
Oh, no? Does that mean you deny dropping a tray in the hall outside room 538 shortly before noon today?
No, it slipped out of my hands and sent a bunch of dishes rolling all over the floor. But I thought I might get a commendation for that. You're always telling us how loud noises shake up the patients and force them to stay in the hospital longer.
I suspected that you weren't paying attention during my lectures on tray dropping, Wine Coop, and you've just confirmed my suspicion. I distinctly told you rookies that trays are to be dropped only in the middle of the night. You dropped yours at noon when the patients on the 5th floor weren't even asleep.
Gosh, all of a sudden I'm keenly aware of the point you're making, Chief Orderly Schnellwell. I guess the patient might not even have a complete relapse unless the racket jolts him out of a sound sleep. And tray dropping in the daytime could even help a sick person build up an immunity against nerve-wracking noise.
Well, you've suddenly become quite an expert on methodology for shattering the human nervous system, haven't you, Wine Coop? It's a shame you didn't remember the lessons you learned in training a little sooner.
No, that's very true, Chief Orderly Schnellwell. I don't know what comes over me sometimes. I try hard to aggravate the patients so the hospital can profit by having them stay sick longer, but then I suddenly forget all I've been taught about how to do it effectively. Guess I just go blank under pressure.
No, there's no need to be that hard on yourself, Wine Coop. Even I forgot the lessons I'd learned in training once or twice when I was a rookie. But I found that mistakes can sometimes be corrected.
Gee, I sense the implication that you may be giving me a second chance, Chief Orderly Schnellwell. And I assure you I'll go all out to undo the damage I've caused. I'll even come in at 2 a.m. on my day off and drop trays until all the patients have jumped out of their skins.
Good show, Wine Coop. Somehow I feel that the day may yet come when I'll be proud to call you a colleague.
And so, with tireless dedication to the creed of perpetuating illness, the hospital orderly goes noisily about his assigned chores. Be sure to join us again next time when the Rotman Corporation, maker of fine buggy whips for more than 9 centuries, will bring you another thrilling story of the orderlies. You spelled airplane in the last hour.
A-E-R-O-P-L-A-N-E.
And that was very, very proper and correct. I looked it up.
So, and it's pronounced airplane,
Airplane.
too.
You want to take another word just quickly?
All
Won't
right.
be counted against you if you miss it.
Shall I look at it first?
I'll tell it to you. It's
all right.
window.
Are you kidding? Because
No, that's the word I picked. Just at random. Window.
capital W-I-N-D-O-W. Window.
Right. Correct. You're very good.
Thank you.
And maybe we can talk to you a little bit later. Next, Mary Backstage, Noble Wife, the story of America's favorite family of the footlights and of their fight for security and happiness against the concrete heart of Broadway. Aboard the liner Poseidon, Mary, Harry, Pop, Calvin, and Greg Marlowe are today enjoying a day on the deck, their third day out. And as we join them, we hear Mary say,
"Isn't it a lovely day?"
"Oh, it's beautiful, and the first day we really had to relax, actually."
You know, something about this salt air gives me a good appetite.
Yeah, the food has been pretty good, too, so far.
I've been eating like a hungry bear.
Right.
Yes, I think we all have.
I begin thinking about what we're going to have for dinner at 10:30 in the morning. That's how good I think it is.
That's right. That's always a good sign when you start thinking that. Well, either it's a bad sign when you're just thinking of meals.
Yes. Greg, how are you doing on your plans there?
I'm just making a few notes. We can't stay in Durban too long. We'll have to get up into, I suppose, the Congo and some of those other countries. Is it Kenya or Kenya?
I think it's Kenya, but of course, never having been
I've
here.
often heard it pronounced Kenya.
I've heard it pronounced Kenya.
I've heard it Kenya and Kenya.
I've heard it both ways.
Well, we'll find out when we get there. You mentioned a wrong name of a place in a place, and they straighten you out pretty quick. I remember when we went to Hawaii, we kept saying we'd go back to the States, and they said it's the mainland, not the States.
We wouldn't want to make a mistake in the TV special. No.
Oh, that's right.
So, well, we'll have plenty of time to check on how to pronounce Kenya or Kenya.
Well, you'll have a
Nairobi.
technical advisor anyway, won't you, Greg?
I'm going to function as the technical advisor myself because I flew over Africa twice.
Oh, well, then
I
you
have a
certainly should
smattering knowledge, and I remember it from geography back in the 4th grade.
Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen. Lady and gentlemen.
Yes, it's referred to as darkest Africa in some circles, you know.
That's right, it is. Is there Mr. Marlowe here?
Speaking right here, sir.
I have a radiogram for you, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Just came into the ship.
Now, should I tip you, or do we pay you when we get off?
No,
later?
when you get off, will be fine, sir.
All right, make a note of it.
Who's it from, Greg?
It's from the network back in New York.
Oh?
They would like an update. Well, let me put it in there.
You look worried there, Mr. Marlowe.
Well, it's just they said that they haven't sold the special yet, and to kind of drag my feet. In other words, don't, in essence, don't do too many hours of filming until they have a firm sponsor.
Don't spend any money, they mean?
Essentially, that's it. I said keep it to bare minimum, and they would like an update on progress so far. Well, all right, I'll get a radiogram off to them and tell them that.
Would you say that's good or bad news, Greg? By that I mean...
it's not good news, of course, when you are told to drag your feet because they haven't been able to sell it.
Sounds to me like they might have second thoughts about whether we should make this special in Africa or not.
You don't think that we're going all the way over here in a, quote, wild goose chase, unquote, do you?
You don't think that, do you, Mr. Marlowe?
I don't know what to think as of right now. I wish you'd excuse me, please. I want to go to my stateroom and read this message again.
Oh, all right, Greg.
Maybe there's something hidden in here that doesn't jump out at me.
We'll see you at dinner, then.
On face value, I'm displeased.
And so Greg receives rather disturbing news from the head of the network. Will they be able to produce a special from Africa? Sure, and join us tomorrow when we'll hear Greg Marlowe say...
Actually, what they said was don't do anything more until I hear from them.
That's tomorrow in the next exciting episode of Mary Backstage Noble Wife. Word Carr speaking. I'll punch up line 1 here. Hello?
Hello, I'm waiting to talk to Bob and Ray.
Okay. How long have you been waiting?
Since about 20 after 3, about an hour and 10 minutes or so.
You put your calls in early, don't you? Well, you've gotten through to us, sir. This is Bob and Ray.
Hello, I want to talk to Bob and Ray, please.
I just said you have gotten through to us, sir.
I didn't recognize your voice.
No, well, we just sound different on the phone.
Yeah.
You have something on your mind?
I wanted to ask you if you can recall the year that ice cream was invented and what was the first flavor. We're having a discussion out here, and we all said that the first flavor probably was vanilla, but we can't pin down the date of its invention.
I think it was invented for a World's Fair or a in St. Louis,
Yeah.
I think.
One wonderful.
And what year that was, I don't know, 1898?
Is that so?
I don't know whether that
But
was...
look, you're Bob, aren't you?
Yeah.
You know, if brains were dynamite, you would never know.
Again, we bid you a cordial welcome to a feature of ours, the award-seeking Bob and Ray Public Service Program, Views Behind the Views, Behind the People, Behind the News. And Ray, I have a gentleman here at our microphone who may well be the next president of the United States. At least he's the first candidate to begin an active campaign for the 1976 nomination. And I'm speaking, of course, of Mr. G.L. Hummerbeck, who hails...
Oh, excuse me. That's not Mr. G.L. Hummerbeck. It's the Right Honorable G.L. Hummerbeck.
Oh, you've already assumed the title of the presidency, have you?
Well, no, not at all. It's just that my first name is the Right Honorable. You see, I'm part Winnebago Indian.
Oh.
You're Bob, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, Bob. And, you know, they name a child after the first thing it sees when it's born.
The Winnebago Indians?
Yeah. Now, in my case, that happened to be the Right Honorable Charles Evans Hughes. He was Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at the time.
That's a very interesting story, sir.
Yes, it is. Of course, I've often thought it would even be more interesting if I knew why the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was in our tent on the reservation the day I was born. But nobody seems to remember.
Yeah, well, in any case, probably doesn't have much bearing on your current campaign to become president.
No, probably not. In fact, I'd say New Hampshire has more to do with that right now.
Oh?
They'll be having the first presidential primary in 1976. So I'm already working hard up there to beat Gerald Ford and Henry Jackson and all the rest of them.
Well, now, of course, you couldn't beat both of those gentlemen because Mr. Ford is Republican and Senator Jackson a Democrat. Which party's nomination you hoping to win?
Well, I'm going after both of them. I think most politicians make a big mistake when they put all their eggs in one basket, and I figure I'd double my chances by running on both sides.
Well, I guess that's true from a mathematical standpoint, but how can you run on a platform that fits either party?
Well, now, I've tried to do that by staying away from the issues that the others will be talking about. I was reading a while back about some guy named William Jennings Bryan, who ran on the free silver issue.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody seems to be doing much with that right now, so I've dug it up again.
Well, I don't have any idea whether you can stir up any sentiment about free silver these days. I don't even remember what the issue was at the time.
Neither do I, but I read where Bryan got nominated after he made a big speech saying he wouldn't be nailed to a cross of gold.
Yeah, I remember
So
that.
I thought I'd say that, too, and see if it still works.
Of course, the statement may have had more meaning in those days, you
Oh,
thought.
I doubt it. I think the important thing was that Bryan kept his promise. I looked it up in the library, and he never did let anybody nail him to a cross of gold. He just died of old age about 20 years later.
Well, now, I don't like to say this, Mr. Hummerdeck. You're our guest.
You could just call me the Right Honorable. All my friends do.
Well, regardless of what I call you, I'm afraid you come across as a man who doesn't know quite what he's talking about. And I think the voters of New Hampshire are smart enough to see right through you.
Well, you know, I get the same impression. The people up there laugh at my speeches, and they heckle me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I plan to stick it out. You see, my mother lives there in New Hampshire now, so I can stay at her place while I'm campaigning. And she doesn't charge me anything, even for doing my laundry.
In other words, you'll come out financially ahead even if you're not elected president.
That's
huh?
right. To tell the truth, I didn't have the nerve to sponge off Mom and just hang around the house there. But when the neighbors find out you're campaigning for president, they don't treat you, you know, like quite so much of a bum.
Well, I'm sure our listeners admire the devious thinking that's behind your candidacy, and now you've explained your real reason for running, I know you'll pick up a lot of new support. Thank you for being our guest today on this most informative session of Views Behind the Views, behind the people, behind the news. Next, Mary Backstage, Noble Wife, the story of America's favorite family of the Footlights and their fight for security and happiness against the concrete heart of Broadway. Another day at sea aboard the liner Poseidon as Mary, Harry, Pop, Calvin, and Greg and the other passengers head for their destination, Durban, South Africa. A beautiful, warm sun shines down on the deck now as our friends play shuffleboard and discuss their upcoming television special. I think it's your turn to
I was
point, Larry.
keeping a wary eye out for icebergs, but I guess we're too far south
Oh, we're
for
too
that
far south for that, Calvin, yes.
time of the year.
Greg, did you look over the wire from the network again and decide whether they meant what it sounded like?
I'm going to go ahead anyway. You know,
The networks now run mostly by salespeople, and they're very shaky about spending a little money.
Yes, I know that.
I'm going to go right ahead and do what I think is best to produce what I think will be a wonderful TV special with you two and you, Calvin and Pop, and I just don't care how much money I'm going to spend. I'm just going to turn out what I think is a wonderful TV show. Oh, I think that is the nicest thing to hear.
Oh, that's really great. How'd it go?
That really is the proper attitude to have.
We need more fellas like you in the broadcasting industry who isn't afraid of a little red ink once in a while.
Right, and who thinks ahead and thinks more of the show than of the business part.
Of the audience more than the board of directors meeting and looking at figures and red ink and things like that. It's time that entertainment be given back to entertainers.
Oh, Mary, you're so right. And the two of you have really encouraged me. I'm really looking forward to starting our television special when we get to
Bunch of bookkeepers, they don't know anything about show business anyway. All they know is how to add up a column of figures.
Yeah, whoever said CPA should be in the show business?
Right.
Doesn't have anything to do with
Or determine what is good and what is bad.
Yes, that's right.
Doesn't make any sense to me. Of course, we're all of the theater. We're not essentially business people, but we're more creative.
That's right.
You know, I'll be the first to admit that I can't reconcile my checkbook or anything like that.
Well, there's
but I don't try.
Nothing to be ashamed of in that. Not many of us can.
The way I look at it, if there's no money in the bank, the check will bounce.
Sure,
then I'll know I should make a deposit.
Right.
Sure, that's the only way to look at it. Of course. Who's ahead here in this game anyway?
Oh, I haven't even noticed, but I think it's my turn to shoot now.
I think I'm ahead.
What's the game anyway?
21.
21, all right. I think I've got 6 so far.
I got 19. Oh, you knocked me right out of the 10.
Yeah.
I thought I had the game wound up right there.
Let me take a try at it, Harry. Yeah, here's the thing.
Rake. Call him a rake.
Oh, you took my mind off the shot there. It went right out of the trough there on the side.
No trough there. It's just a regular deck board.
It went overboard.
Wonder what people used to do on deck before some creative mind came up with shuffleboard.
Well, I don't know. They've got a ping pong table on the after poop, too.
Well, I mean, I think shuffleboard was invented before ping pong.
Oh, I'm sure it was, sure.
I don't know what they used to do. You say back in 1860, when people were on a boat for a couple of months. You know.
Paging Miss Jerry Rogers. Paging Miss Jerry Rogers.
Did he say Jerry Rogers?
Miss Rogers, please. Paging Miss
Excuse
Jerry
me, sir.
Rogers. Yeah, yes, sir.
Is Miss Jerry Rogers on this boat?
Well, she's supposed to be, sir. That's why I'm paging her.
You mean, well, I don't know. Possibly two Jerry Rogers.
Yes, it's not an uncommon name.
No, of course. Maybe it isn't our friend. The lady who used to go dip-a-dip-a-dip-a-dop like that.
Now, I don't know whether this one goes dip-a-dip-a-dop or not.
No, she goes dip-a-dip-a-dip-a-doo, dip-a-dip-a-dip-a-da.
Matter of fact, this one goes whoop-a-whoop-a-whoop-a-whoop. Something like that.
Well, then,
Whoop-a-whoop-a-whoop.
that's not the Jerry Rogers we know.
Oh.
Ours goes dip-a-dip-a-dip-a-doo.
And so the purser informs our friends that Miss Jerry Rogers is supposed to be aboard the Poseidon. But is it a different one? Be sure and join us tomorrow when we'll hear Mary say,
Yes, it's the same one.
That's tomorrow in the next exciting episode of Mary Backstage Noble Wife. Word Carr speaking.
And now it's time to pick up more valuable tips for you home handymen as we pay another of our regular visits to the basement workshop of Fred Falvey, the do-it-yourselfer. Fred, I see you've really beautified the workshop with all those potted cactus plants. Those are new since our last visit, aren't they?
Yes, but those plants aren't primarily for decoration, Ray. You know, a cactus pulls moisture out of the air, so I bought these and transplanted them into pots with the aid of a few simple tools. Now they're keeping the basement dry for a good deal less money than a dehumidifier would cost.
Well, that's quite an idea, Fred. And I'm sure our friends on the out there in the radio audience will want to dig up some cactus plants for that very purpose the next time they're vacationing out west.
Yes, it's always a good idea to have a few around the house when you live in the city. You can tap them for drinking water if your pipes have to be turned off for a long period. Cactus water doesn't taste very good, but it can keep you alive for several days after your neighbors have all died of thirst.
And you just cut a hole in the cactus to get the fluid out, is that it?
Yes, that's right, Ray. A number 5 paring knife is the best thing to use, but in a real emergency, almost any pointed shop tool will do.
So there you have it, listeners. Just one more example of better living by doing it yourself. Fred, I'm sure our home handymen are all anxious now to hear about your newest project here in the basement workshop, so go right ahead.
All right, Ray, this week I have a fascinating new project started in the basement workshop. It's this handsome thermometer that can be placed on the wall inside the home or nailed to a tree in the yard, whichever you prefer.
Gee, it really is beautiful and useful, too. Would you explain to the handyman listening how you made it?
Well, what I plan to do is explain how I made it for the benefit of the handyman listening in.
Oh, well, good.
It's really quite easy to do with a few simple tools. Now, the tube that holds the mercury is just an ordinary glass drinking straw. I sealed one end shut by heating the glass to the melting point with a standard acetylene torch.
Oh, that seems fairly simple. But where did you get the mercury to put inside?
Well, of course, you can always buy it in quantity on the New York Commodity Exchange, but you don't really need that much for one thermometer. So I got mine from condemned tuna fish.
Is that available on the New York Commodity Exchange?
I'm not really sure about that, Ray, but the inexpensive source I found is a local fish cannery that had thousands of cases of tuna fish condemned because of excessive mercury. And I merely squeezed each chunk of tuna here in this number 8 vise and then caught the drippings in a bucket.
And that's all pure mercury that drips into the bucket, huh?
No, it's mostly fish oil. Just a little mercury mixed in. But of course the mercury is heavier than the oil, so it sinks to the bottom after you let the mixture sit for a few weeks. Then it's quite simple to get it out of an ordinary household ladle.
Well, then I suppose you just put the mercury in a glass tube, well, with an eyedropper or something like that.
Standard number 6 eyedropper. It's the best thing to use for putting the mercury in the tube. Then you simply glue the tube to a nice piece of varnished lumber to complete your thermometer. Of course, you want to paint numbers down the side there to indicate the various temperatures.
I see you have a number 64 painted on the wood part, and then a 72 above that, and then an 86 up near the top.
That's right. I just call the Weather Bureau occasionally to get the temperature, and then I paint in the figure they give me right at the point where the top of the mercury is. Of course, I'll have to wait till next winter to fill in the lower numbers near the bottom.
Well, it's going to be a real professional job when you're finished, Fred, and I'm sure it cost, well, much less than you'd pay for a thermometer in a store.
Oh, yes, I already had the glass straw and the lumber, so my only investment was for the $300 worth of condemned tuna fish. But I'll get most of that back as soon as I find a few of the neighbors who aren't afraid to eat it.
Well, it shouldn't be too difficult now that you've removed most of the poison and everything. Well, once again, fond listeners, we've witnessed a typical example of how to live better by doing it yourself. Direct from the basement workshop of Fred Falvey, the do-it-yourselfer.
Next, Mary Backstage, Noble Wife, the story of America's favorite family of the Footlights and of their fight for security and happiness against the concrete heart of Broadway. Another evening in the grand saloon of the liner Poseidon, and today our friends have been invited by the captain to participate in the entertainment. And as we join their table, we hear Mary, Pop, Calvin, and Greg listening to the entertainment.
The captain
This is
ordered
going to
the
be a
canvas
very hard
prepared.
act to follow.
That night, the sailors spread it on deck.
I think
the child was placed in
he's
it.
got my
Then it was
dance
folded
number set
over a
up for
body
the
and
next,
sewn up ready for burial.
I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to be part of the audience tonight.
Yes, I am too, Calvin.
You know,
But even as they did so,
there's something comforting.
But even as they did so, everybody heard the.
Something comforting about just having to sit in the audience, not having to get up and perform.
But she
This may not be
she
such a hard act to follow.
in 1683 she married King Louis XIV, and for the remaining 32 years of his reign, it was Francoise who guided.
You're going to do the number from the Westchester Furioso, Bob?
No, I'm going to do another one this time.
He married
Something
King
I've been
Louis
working on in
XIV.
my stateroom.
And for the remaining 32 years of his reign,
He's
One thing a tap dancer has to do is
destiny of France.
to work with the drummer. Oh, is he over?
As the MC, he's going to announce the next
Thank
act.
you very much, Mr. Storyteller.
Break a leg, Bob.
I know it, speaking for all the audience, that we're all just dumbfounded and aghast at your story and your ability to tell one.
Say that again.
It's certainly entertainment of a new dimension, and I know that you have a great storytelling career ahead of you. Now, friends of the Poseidon, as we head toward a terrific sea adventure, we'd like to welcome to our stage Pop Beloved, who recently been featured in the great Broadway show Westchester Furioso. He's going to do a little shtick, a little tap dance for us. So let's give him a Poseidon welcome, Pop Beloved.
Thank you very much.
Okay, drummer. Hey, this is a new number.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, this is difficult.
Yes,
This is when the tap dancer begs for applause, you know, he goes through those very simple steps, making it look difficult, waving his arms in a circle.
yes, and look, he's winking at me.
What happened? Oh, he fell down.
Well, you all right, Pop?
Yes, just my dignity is hurt. How'd you like to do? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Very good.
Real crowd pleaser I am.
You really took a header. Did you hurt yourself?
No, I don't think so, Mary.
Well, too bad. You got your white ducks all stained.
Tomorrow is when you'll feel it, Pop. You'll see whether you hurt yourself or not.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's true.
that's
About
true.
those muscle things. It's the next day is when you notice it. Yeah.
Right, let's see what the next act is going
Thank
to
you
be.
very much, Bob. We all enjoyed that very much. Unfortunately, you fell there at the end, but I don't think it detracted one bit from your act.
I know it.
And now, from New York, Miss Jerry Rogers.
It is the same Miss Jerry Rogers,
Yes,
all right.
it is. Waiter, could you get another round of drinks for this table?
My house, that. Same thing all around again.
Yeah.
I'll take a double.
Me too.
You had doubles the first time. Well, then it'll be the same again.
You know, I'm not from Missouri, but this song really gets me. For me.
How do you suppose she happened to be on this same vessel with us?
I don't know.
Oh, very good. That's terrific. Thank you very much. Well, that just about wraps up the entertainment, ladies and gentlemen. The orchestra now will be playing for the next few minutes for your dancing pleasure. Thanks for riding the Poseidon.
And so another night's entertainment concludes aboard the Poseidon, and our friends draw ever nearer to South Africa. You want to join us on Monday when we'll hear Calvin say,
Land ho!
that's Monday in the next exciting episode of Mary Backstage Noble Wife. Word Carr speaking.
Oberman wrote to us to fill us in on that. Remember that fellow called us on the phone yesterday asking us about the unassisted triple plays, and he has a complete list of all of them. The last one was made, unassisted double play. It was made in 1968 by Ron Hansen, who was a shortstop for the Washington Senators at that time, versus the Cleveland Indians. So there.
Keith has got those
he has
statistics right at his fingertips, hasn't he? But he's a great baseball card collector. This fellow up in
Hastings
on Hudson, and they had a big meeting of all the baseball gum card collectors a couple of weeks ago, which he attended. And they buy and they sell and they go up into the hundreds, some of the rare ones. And we were on one,
We did radio people 20 years ago, I guess. We're on one somewhere, someplace. I don't have one, do you?
Bowman's Gum. No, I don't have one. I do wish I'd kept my baseball cards, though.
Oh.
What I wouldn't give to have my Jimmy Fox right now.
Yeah. Had all the Red Sox.
Doc Kramer and, all the Red Sox.
Oh, if you come across one of the Bob and Ray ones, hang on to it, because that'll be worth at least a dime sometime. And hi there, sports fans. This is your eyes and ears of the press box, Biff Burns, speaking out once again from the Biff Burns Sports Room. And we have a fella in the sports room today who's fighting hard to win Rookie of the Year honors with the New York Mets, Whitey Stickwell, and glad you could make it, Whitey.
Thanks, Biff. I'm glad I could make it. But I'd like to correct one thing you just said there.
Oh?
I'm not really fighting hard to win Rookie of the Year honors at all. In fact, I haven't gotten into a game all season. Most of the fans don't even know I'm with the Mets.
Well, I've noticed Yogi seems to be holding you back for some reason, Whitey. What's the real lowdown on that?
Well, I'm not sure, Biff. I imagine the real lowdown has something to do with the fact that I'm even older than old Case. I'll be 94 a week from next Thursday.
Well, I was going to mention that you don't seem to be in quite the same age group with most of the rookies coming up this year. I mean, you're a good deal more feeble than the average youngster, and I notice your hair is completely white there.
Yes. Well, it was on account of my hair that they nicknamed me Whitey. Back in the days when I was with the Federal League, they used to call me Blackie Stickwell.
What league did you say that was?
Federal League. Went bankrupt in 19 and 14.
Well, was there any special reason why it took you so long to work your way up to the majors, Whitey?
Well, frankly, Biff, I attribute it to the complicated farm system they have in pro ball. I had to knock around with Class D teams for about 24 seasons before they thought I was ready for tryout in the 3I League.
That was where the Mets spotted you, was it?
No, that's where the manager spotted me, hitting 126, and sent me back to Class D for a little more conditioning. I was down there for 17 years the second time before I got my big chance in the Southern Association.
And that proved to be your springboard into the majors, eh?
Well, no, that proved to be my springboard back to Class D. I was even worse in the Southern Association than I'd been in the 3I League. In fact, I set a record that still stands by striking out more times than I came to bat.
Well, how could you possibly do that?
Well, I'd be standing in the on-deck circle and start swinging at balls that were being thrown to the fellow who batted ahead of me. Once in a while, I'd swing at 3 bad ones before I actually came up at all.
So you went back to Class D for the 3rd time, and you must have finally found yourself down there.
No, it was the owner of the team who finally found myself down there. My timing was starting to get even worse by then. The owner wanted to farm me out, but there was nothing below Class D to farm me out to, so I got the sack.
Well, it's not much of a success story, Whitey, and it's kind of hard to see how the Mets would pay a $50,000 bonus to a player with your background.
Well, I've kind of wondered about that myself, Biff, and all I can figure is that the Mets might have gotten me mixed up with my grandson, whose name is also Whitey Stickwell. Now, he pitched 19 no-hitters in high school last year, and scout from the Mets was real high on the kid. But when they sent another fellow around with the contract, he signed me instead.
Well, it's a real rags to riches story that could only happen to you and the Mets, Whitey. And this is Biff Burns saying, until next time we get together here in the sports room, this is Biff Burns saying, so long, fans. This is survey number 67. And, sir, I believe you know the rules. You've never met me, and you've received nothing for taking part in the comparison survey, huh? He's nodding, shaking his head no, and nodding yes. He has received nothing. All right, now you listen to the Bob and Ray Show for a period of 8 to 10 days, was it? He's nodding his head up and down, yes. And how many actually in all?
9.
9. And at the end of that time, you evaluated the 2 programs, the Bob and Ray Show and another one, and you decided which one came out the winner. Which one was it?
Oh, Bob and Ray came out the winner because they have 2 radial strips and guaranteed for 40,000 miles.
Thank you very much, sir.
And now the makers of Tingle, the long-wearing dental floss created from spun glass fiber, invite you to join us for another exciting adventure of Elmer W. Litzinger, Spy.
My name is Elmer W. Litzinger, Spy. Day in and day out, I work on some of the toughest espionage assignments our government can hand out. Recently, we got word that a foreign power might try to sabotage our shortwave radio broadcasting facilities. It was my job to protect the transmitter at all costs. Late one evening, a strange man with a long beard and a black satchel entered our cleverly hidden master control room and approached me.
Good evening, sir. Are you the man of the house?
Yes, and I'm guarding this entire facility against possible enemy sabotage. The name is Elmer W. Litzinger, Spy.
Pleased to meet you. I'm Herbie Isher, radio repairman. One of your listeners complained to us about reception of your broadcasts, so I thought I'd better check out the equipment here.
Well, I'm sure there's nothing wrong with it. We're getting through to all the foreign capitals just fine.
Yeah, that's the complaint I got. It came from one of your regular listeners in a foreign capital. So where's your thing with all the transmitting tubes in it?
It's in that highly classified area over in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm supposed to shoot any unauthorized person who tries to go near there. But since you're wearing a radio repairman's coveralls, I suppose that makes you authorized.
I was hoping that's the way it looked to you. So just unlock that big panel there and let me check around inside.
Very well. But if I can't say anything wrong, I'm only going to pay you for a service call. I'm quite shrewd about handling matters like this.
Oh, yeah, I can see you're real shrewd, all right. Open up the panel, will you?
There. See? The tubes are all glowing, so they couldn't be burned out.
Uh-huh. I'll just remove this great big one and about 3 or 4 of the smaller ones.
But won't that weaken our broadcasting range a little?
Yes, but that'll take care of the complaint we got from your regular listener in a foreign capital. He said you were coming through much too clearly.
Well, all right. I guess you have your job to do, Ralph.
My name's Herbie.
Oh, yes, you told me that when you came in, but I was just looking at the name Ralph embroidered on the pocket of your coveralls there.
Oh, well, don't get suspicious about that. I can explain it easily. See, Ralph died unexpectedly about an hour ago of violent causes, so I just borrowed his coveralls.
Well, there's nothing unusual about that. Of course, I'm really supposed to check out any violent deaths I hear about. But I guess handling all this electrical equipment makes radio repair, very hazardous work.
Oh, I'll say. Ralph was shot 4 times at point-blank range.
Really? I didn't know a radio could do that to a person. But you're the electronics expert. Doesn't seem to strike you as being unusual. So I'll just file my daily report with the chief, saying, situation at the transmitter found normal. By Elmer W. Litzinger, Spy.
Friends, we know how anxious you are to show your appreciation to the sponsors of this fine program. So rush out now and buy a case of Tingle, the miracle dental floss made of spun glass fiber. Get some instantly and be sure to join us soon for more exciting adventures in the career of Elmer W. Litzinger, Spy.
Once again, we've had our scouts searching the railroad and bus stations around New York for unfortunates who need help from our generous Bob and Ray organization. Bob, I see you have one of those creatures there at the microphone with you now.
Well, yes, I do. She is Mrs. Cleo Shumwalt of Red Lodge, Montana, Ray. And she has something of a noisemaker here that's part of her problem. If you just make the noisemaker stop while we're talking, Miss Shumwalt, okay?
Well, actually, I'm not playing with it. It's just that I've gotten so used to the static on my radio back home that I can't understand what people are saying unless there's a lot of racket going on. My doctor calls the disease fringe area deafness.
And you've come here to New York seeking a medical cure, is that right?
Just a moment. Now, what was that again?
I was asking if you've come to New York seeking a medical cure.
Yes, I've spent a great deal to get here, but it will be worth it if I can be helped. People really get bugged when I sit next to them in a movie with my noisemaker.
Uh-huh. I can see how they would. It is nerve-wracking. But tell me, have the New York doctors given you any hope at all?
Well, not as long as I live in Red Lodge, Montana, no.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we're 200 miles
from a radio station, and there's a lot of copper in the ground out there.
Oh, uh-huh.
And that's why they get so much static. And the medical people say my ear membranes are going to stay irritated unless I move somewhere else.
Well, that is tragic. I wish there was something...
Wait a minute, I'm not ready. All right, now go.
I say it's tragic to have your life upset this way, but from our generous Bob and Ray organization, here's a box seat ticket to the performance of your choice by the New York Philharmonic.
Well, I can't go there. The conductor would kill me if I made enough noise to hear the orchestra.
Now we're going to move along to our next guest. Who's over... I wasn't talking to you, Miss Schumwalt. She's going to leave, I think. Our second guest with a hard luck story is Mr. Merton Steckney of Topeka, Kansas. And according to your card, Mr. Steckney, you've just blown your life savings on a trip to New York to seek financial backing for your invention.
Well, that's correct. And I've had nothing but disappointment. You see, I take this little box into a potential backer's office, and then I flip this switch.
Yeah.
And then they throw me out.
Well, that would be disappointing, but I don't know what you expect. Nothing happens when you flip that switch.
Oh, but it does. My garage door opens in Topeka, but I can't get anybody to call their long distance and ask my wife if the invention is working. So I'm out almost $500 for this trip.
Well, that's sad when you have a product that fills such an obvious need. But to ease your heartbreak, our Bob and Ray organization would like you to have this lovely color television set with remote control tuning.
Well, I don't really need the remote control. This other dial on my invention changes the channels on every TV set west of St. Louis.
That's quite all right, sir. And our final story today comes from Ms. Nellie Wolfkeck. I hope that's pronounced correctly. Wolfkeck. Of Niles, Ohio. And I hear that your young son, has become a victim of tragedy here in New York.
Yes, I wish now I'd never brought him here, but I promised the boy a trip to the city if he got good grades in school, and he made straight A's all last semester.
Well, what happened when you brought him to New York? Did illness strike?
No, he just had a chance to see a street gang for the first time, and he liked the idea of organized vandalism so much that he joined a group and got himself pinched.
Oh, well, I know the suffering it must have brought to you as a mother, but from our generous B&R organization, here's a lovely electric carving knife for you.
Well, I can't have that lying around when Norman gets out of the slammer.
No, that's right. I guess you couldn't. Well, you'll enjoy using it at your next buffet. And those are all of the hard luck stories we have for today, I think. Ray, back up to you on stage.